I'm not saying that we can't fix the process, but the mechanism that if a child is in danger, that they can tell a teacher, and that automatically triggers by law that we have to investigate. That is a mechanism that we want.
Clear. In this case, you think that schools, if students tell things to schools in private and the schools don't.
There is no school in private. School is the government. School is the government. There is no school in private.
And the schools don't tell that to parents. You're saying that that's wrong. I just want to make sure that I'm hearing this right.
That's the long and short of it.
That's wrong. Because I do want to let you know that that's the number one way that kids actually get into child protective services when they're being sexually abused by their parents or by family members at home, is they look for the school system is the number one place that kids get help for those things by talking in private to their school system.
And then they just don't tell the parents. Oh, wait, well, they would be arrested, so they would know. What the fuck are you talking about? Or are you saying that you want to keep children in an abusive household?
Number one place that kids get help for those things by talking in private to their school system, and then authorities are brought in.
It's not exactly a secret.
I think that's a separate issue. If there is evidence of the parent abusing their kid, regardless of whether you have a disagreement with what's happening at the school, that parent should be dealt with if they're abusing their kids. Obviously, no one's.
So here's a blanket rule: if you're abusing a child, then you should be arrested, whether you're the teacher or the parent. Because again, it's another bait and switch. There's no secret. There's no secret. If you're being abused at home and you tell a teacher, they then tell the authorities and everybody is notified. Hey, this is what your kid said in school. We're sending CPS to your house. If they're lying, you'll be good, but we got to check this out. I don't understand how he's saying that as if it's an argument for keeping secrets. A government official, that's an adult, keeping secrets with children. That's what you are fighting for.
That parent should be dealt with if they're abusing their kids. Obviously, no one's going to disagree.
So this story, which triggered the law change in Florida, was a 12-year-old girl having weekly meetings at the school about being trans. The teacher was grooming this child, and then the child tried to kill herself.
Well, but you know, that's that. Are we saying that's not happening, or we're saying it's good, or that's not happening enough for us to care, or what's which of the 3 to 4 positions count there? So if students tell the teacher something in private and it's actionable, the teacher is obligated to act, whether it's whether that's child abuse or I think I'm trans. For now, if it's up to organize it here, that won't be the case.
You make a move, they make a move.
That's the whole thing. Is that we're moving in a direction. It's like, oh, you're making it so bleak. Why do you have to make it so bleak? This is what you're pushing towards. We're just talking about it. You're trying to make it happen. Which one of us is more bleak? He's just saying things.
He's not saying anything.
As beloved teachers unions stop those mandated reporters during COVID. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. What is the best thing that's ever happened for education? COVID. Horrible, horrible, horrible.
The teacher was grooming this child, and then the child tried to kill herself. And the parents had no idea what was going on.
That's not happening, Doc.
So we are disagreeing. So, Chris, we're disagreeing about how often this happens. But let's say it happens 0.1% of the time. Shouldn't those 0.1% of parents have the choice to go somewhere else? I mean, that's the argument I'm making.
And that's really what it's about. That's really what it's about. If we're coming to a school choice, that whatever the cause of that, for you to say no, you have to stay here, does not make sense.
A lot of people may be happy with their public schools. Maybe none of this is happening in your public school, but you can still choose that opportunity. But shouldn't other families, if there's something going on, regardless, let's say you're assigned to a school that's super Trumpy and you didn't like that for whatever reason, and you wanted to go to a more left-leaning school, should you be able to have that choice to vote with your feet? I think we could agree there.
Let's try this. Let's try this.
I think I would like to hear an answer to that question. I would like to hear an answer to that question. That's a great question. If I'm not mistaken, he does bring it back up. But Great question.
So you've got what's going on in Sweden, Denmark, and the UK.
But wait, really quick before the fact that the analog to little children getting raped in school, the analog to that is they like Trump. Think about that for a second. On this side, a bad school is children are getting raped, but that's okay. That's okay on the left.
As a Democrat.
On the right, it's not okay that children are getting raped, but we like Trump. Oh, I can't send my kid there. One of these things is not like the other. The teachers have sent the police to my house multiple times. Well, what were you doing?
Let's try this. So you've got what's going on in Sweden, Denmark, and the UK around trans kids, and across Europe now for the past couple of years, the recommendations have been ending puberty blockers and these treatments.
We're not doing that anymore.
You've now had actual peer-reviewed, legitimate major studies. I think it was in PNAS. It's a funny name for a publication.
Did he say penis?
Showing that it really is. Yeah, that's the name of the scientific journal.
AS.
PNAS.
All right.
And
I think
it
you're
said
saying
that.
That sounds like a brother saying it. Penis.
Yeah. So here's what we find.
If I was black, I'd be offended by that. Just saying.
That
sounds like a brother saying it. Penis.
Yeah. So here's what we find. We find that desistance rates, and we knew this for a long time because the studies have been out, and many leftist activists and trans activists try to ignore these. Desistance, meaning a child who presents as gender dysphoric upon reaching puberty will cease to be dysphoric and find themselves more aligned with their biological sex and gender, whatever.
It's called a childhood phase.
So basically, it's a phase, and they'll get over it. Unless you go down the road of gender-affirming care. I think it's, people quote 80%. I think it's something like between 60 and 90%.
Cease to be dysphoric and find themselves more aligned with their biological sex and gender, whatever. And so desistance rates can be from like 65 to 95%. We're now finding that the aggregate studies and the studies of studies where they analyze all the data, and now we're looking at the actual scientific research on puberty blockers and things like that at the UK, Denmark, Sweden. They're all saying, stop this.
It right now.
It's not working and it's bad. There's now something called the CAS report, which is this big controversy among the left, which is advocating in the UK to stop the puberty blockers and things like this. So this stuff has been known for a long time.
Long time. I like this. I really thought these guys were like the Professor X and Magneto. If school choice, shout out to X-Men.
Uncanny X-Men number 4.
Little weird episode today, but I'm here for it. I am here for it. So CPS said, CPS told me straight out that teachers are their first line of information. Again, for now. They are specifically trying to end that. This is a good thing. This is what we want. We want teachers to, if they hear something that is not good with a child, not to take it upon themselves to do anything, but to report it to the proper authorities.
So this stuff has been known for a long time. If desistance rates are greater than 50% and suicidal ideation is higher than 50%, and actual attempts at suicide among young people are, I think it's around 35 or 30 to 40%. I think it might be like 30% among trans people. If desistance is higher than the rate of suicide, advocating children go on medication, puberty blockers, or social transition is increasing the risk of suicide among them.
It's very simple. If you are in the group of child who has not done any gender stuff, but is experiencing these thoughts, then you are at a certain level of risk. If you are that same child and you are you start going down that road, the statistics for self-deletion with that are very much higher. It's just that simple.
It's more complex than that.
It's just that simple. If you let it fade, most of the time, it's going to fade. And if it doesn't, then you've done nothing to stop that transition. Month 69 said, and what's worse, they went down the road of blocking puberty because it can be for men to fully pass if they go through puberty. Yeah, that's the. It's like, it's so. I struggle to come up with a simple analogy of, well, don't do anything because you might not like it, and if you do this, then you can't go back. But if you a steak, there it is, a steak.
That's the way I like them. Well done.
You always undercook the steak. You can always cook it up if you want it a little darker, but you can't cook it down. You cannot make a steak more rare. If you are not sure if you want a medium or a medium rare, go with medium rare, and then you can send it back and they can cook it up to medium.
Hello, it's bloody.
Same thing with a child. If you just start with, hey, you're a person with the gender that aligns with your biology, they'll probably be fine. And if they're not, then you can still transition as an adult. How is this a complicated issue? How is this a complicated issue? And even said no adults should have secrets with children, including parents, but especially non-parents. Parents shouldn't have secrets with children? That's can you flesh that out a little? Because I feel like there's definitely some shit that you want to keep in the family.
What happens in the family stays in the family.
No? Yeah, exactly. Undercook it a bit, and if you need to, crisp it up.
Medication, puberty blockers, or social transition is increasing the risk of suicide among them. And the policy among schools in California and many schools, until parents started finding out what was going on.
So CPS says, my son lied to his teacher and she took him seriously. So they searched my home and took my son into foster care while they set a date for my trial. That's shitty. That's horrible. You know, no sarcasm or anything. That's terrible. But don't you think that it is better that they made sure? I mean, do you not have your child now? We obviously don't know going in. So if your son lied, then the teacher didn't do anything wrong. CPS didn't do anything wrong. It's your son who lied. I'm not saying that you deserve any of that. I'm not saying that is something anybody should have to go through. But if we're looking at a natural scale, yeah. So that's what we want.
All's well that ends well.
We want to make sure, okay, well, this kid said that, you know, whatever he said, and he might be lying, but we want to make sure. And well, that's a good reason to make sure that you talk to your children about what lying to police, teachers, authorities can do. Because we want that mechanism to be there. We want that mechanism to be there. If a child is being abused, we want that mechanism to be there. The fact that your son, CBS, happened to get into it with a lie, I'm you know, I don't know what age, but I'm sure, you know, I called 911 for my house when I was a kid and hung up, and so I'm, you know. But this is a better scenario than having children be abused all over the place with no recourse. I'm sorry that it happened to you, but I'm glad that the system worked in that case.
For the greater good.
Yeah, and yeah, I definitely agree with you. But again, what is the alternative? So what would be a secret between a child and parent? I'm not even saying everything needs to be on Facebook, but I don't think a parent telling a child, this is our secret, isn't a good thing. Your wife had a miscarriage? That's, if that were to happen, I would assume that's not something that you want to, you know, we go tell everybody. Or, you know, if you're, let's say your cousin comes out as a pedo.
Telling people that we have bleached assholes.
Don't really want that all over the place. Don't really want the kids knowing that we have a pedo in the family. That would be a good secret. No? Okay. And so that's definitely an issue. Of course, that is a bad thing. But that is something to be fixed within the system, not to say the system is bad. I completely agree that it's a far from perfect system. But what Homeboy here is suggesting is just that if kids are getting beaten or raped or whatever, sucks. Sucks to suck.
Sorry, not sorry.
No.
schools in California and many schools until parents started finding out what was going on, especially because of these Zoom classes. The policy was tell the kids, affirm the kids. I mean, you've got teachers now, numerous teachers who have been fired for refusing to affirm children.
You're fired.
We're talking about kids who are experiencing something distressful. I get it. The science says the proper treatment is do not give them blockers, do not give them medication, do not social transition them. They need therapy and they will likely desist, and this can prevent suicide. But the school policy was to affirm this and don't tell the parents.
We're doing our own thing, man.
But this is widespread. And let me add a couple more things.
Okay.
We have This Book is Gay and Genderqueer over here.
Mm-hmm.
And those were found in hundreds of schools, maybe more than that, even in Florida. And you've got descriptions of scat. You've got explanations in that book on how to use Grindr. A teacher in Illinois was giving instruction to 10 to 12-year-olds on how to use Grindr to hook up with adult gay men. And they called the police on her. And the policy at many of these schools is not to tell the parents.
Is that the teacher that...
Yeah, I mean, things get bad. So CPS said children 7 times more likely to be sexually abused in a foster care than at home. Okay, but if they're already being sexually abused at a home, then they're 100 times more likely to be abused at home than in foster care.
Statistical fact.
Again, I am not saying it is a good situation. So let me ask you this then. Would you prefer that the teacher didn't take your son seriously and that kids were getting raped and beaten all over America? Those are the two options. There's no middle ground. Yes, we can fix the system, but the fact is your son said a thing to an authority figure. It's not CPS's fault that your son lied. So we can say that it's something that we need to fix certain aspects. But to say that we don't want to have that mechanism in place at all is a very strong, a very strong position. So I said, my son told his teacher, my dad isn't home to take care of me, but he didn't tell her that he had a babysitter. And, I that's certainly not something drastic that if I'm that teacher, I would have probably called you. So again, we have the issue with the choices that are made, but we still have the situation where a teacher incorrectly has the understanding that the child is being neglected. And so unfortunately, because of how that worked out, you were somebody who fell through the cracks of the system. The system is not perfect, but the mechanism of that system is necessary.
And they called the police on her. And the policy at many of these schools is not to tell the parents.
Is that the teacher that had like a book fair and she had a book?
She was instructing kids, and she was like, so this was a middle school teacher. I'm going to pull it up.
Because there's a middle school teacher in Illinois, I've heard this story before, who had parents call the police on her.
Right. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. And the police investigated, the district investigated, and it was a completely blown up claim. And the parents pulled out of the claim and didn't want to testify anymore. So they made this big claim. It became national news, and the parents themselves who made the claim actually ended up pulling out of it. And it ended in a nothing burger, right? So this teacher had 100 different books at a book fair, and this was 1 or 2 books in that book.
Too many.
I just want to level set some things a little bit, because we get, I think, a little bit into panics. And
it was a book tasting.
Yeah. So just to tie a bow on, again, I'm not saying that, number one, it's a good thing that this happened to you. Number two, that it should have happened based on the details that you were giving. Number three, that CPS is some amazing thing with no flaws or any of those things.
Have I made myself clear?
Again, I am strictly saying that the mechanism that an authority figure can get involved if necessary is something that is good. That's all. Not perfect, but the mechanism is good. So did we get this one? That's not a secret between a parent and child exclusively. In cases of other adults, relatives would know. So what are you thinking of? That would be a bad secret with a parent. Because again, I don't have kids, so it's probably something obvious that's just not coming to mind. So what would be an example of a bad secret that is between, mom and son or whatever?
At a book fair, and this was 1 or 2 books in that book fair. So I just want to level set some things a little bit because we get, I think, a little bit into panics. And
it was a book tasting.
Yeah, it was.
And one of the books that was added was "This book is gay." It was a book tasting.
Yeah, it was.
And one of the books that was added was "This book is gay."
Yeah.
The parents found out and were upset, and they called the police.
Here's the fundamental question that I have for both of you guys because first of all,
yeah, let's just gloss right over all of that and ask a completely different question.
I don't mean to be flippant, but
you sure?
Really don't care about the trans panic. It doesn't take food off of my table. It's not an American issue. It's not something that 99%.
What if it was affecting your kids in your school, though?
Exactly. After all of this, you know what? I actually don't even care. That's clear. That's clear that you don't care. But not because you've understood people's concerns and said that they're not concerns, but because you've chosen to decide that the concerns don't exist at all. So, as any film, what would be an example of a bad secret between a parent and child? Any film says, say you had a dad named Joe who took inappropriate showers with his 8-year-old daughter, Ashley.
Come on, man.
Okay, that's a bad secret. So
he's stumped.
Okay, I mean, I get because that is. I mean, obviously, this is a very bad secret. But I don't know that there aren't other things that is just I don't know. I guess you win. You win. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed that clip, check out the full live stream link in the bio and catch me live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. See you there.